Welcome, dear students. The current session focuses on the status of English in today's world. And I hope that by the end of this session, you would be able to understand what is the status and position of English in today's world and how far it has spread across the world. Well, today, when English is one of the major languages of the world, in fact, it would take us a lot of effort on our part or on the part of our imagination to think about how it has spread and how it has gained this status, because this is all something very recent in the history of English language. To understand that, I would like you to think about Shakespeare's Times. Think of Shakespeare. Who were the people for whom he wrote? The plays that he wrote, the poetry that he wrote. Who were the people? Who were the readership? Who were the audience? Actually, it was for a very small community of people. That was a community of only a few million people. A community whose language was not much valued elsewhere in Europe. And it was actually the literature that he produced, it was written in a language that was unknown to the rest of the world, because during his times, rather I would say till his times, English had not spread across the globe. So, Shakespeare's language was pretty well confined to England and southern Scotland. It had not yet even penetrated into Ireland or even in Wales, let alone in the rest of the world. In the first place, the expansion of English and its spread is related to the number of the speakers of English that was due to the growth of the population in England itself. However, if we look at the spread of English and if we look at also the total number of the speakers of English, we can clearly see that the speakers of English outside England have outnumbered the speakers of English in England. So, there were many other ways through which it spread. If we think of the estimates of the speakers of, the English language today, actually these estimates vary and different linguists and researchers have given different numbers. However, if we agree on the most modest scales, over 400 million speakers of English as a native language exist today. And of course, there are many more who are using it as a second language or as a foreign language. In fact, now there are many varieties of English. As English has spread all across the globe and, as it is being used in different parts of the world, what has happened with that is due to the socio-cultural conditions and the surrounding environment, the customs, the values, the lifestyle, the needs of the people, what has happened, different varieties of English have emerged. So in North America, Australia, and New Zealand, there was dense settlement by English language speakers. And today, if we look at the demographics of these countries, we would realize that these settlers, they have outnumbered the original inhabitants of all these three countries, which means they have outnumbered Native Americans, Australian Aboriginals, and Maoris people in New Zealand. In fact, they have not only dominated them in terms of language, but also politically as well. And by the way, this is just a reminder that the power of language is associated with the social power and the political power. The result is that native languages have hardly any influence on the language of these settlers. So, my dear students, in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, there is a little regional variation in terms of language, and all across, these areas, you would find the use of English. If we think of South Africa, it is a community of those who speak English as a first language, comparatively in a lesser number, so the community of the speakers as first language is smaller. And in fact, according to 2001 census English, the records tell that it is only 8.2% of the population who speak, English at home. However, this does not account for many South Africans of various ethnic backgrounds and ancestries who will speak English as a second language, because if we look around at the world, we would realize that it is used mostly as a second language or as a foreign language all across the globe.